Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak to you in China on behalf of schools in Denmark. I am going to speak about how we work with well-being in the Danish elementary school. And the outline for what I am going to talk about today is I'll briefly give an introduction about myself. Then I'm going to talk about the Danish school system, the elementary school system, how it's structured, the law that we are working under, and about education. Then I'm going to touch on how we work with well-being on a national level, all schools in Denmark, how we do on a local level here at Juelsminde Skole. And finally, I'm going to talk about how I work with well-being in the classroom. Then I'm briefly going to talk about what we learned from homeschooling. We had 2 lockdowns here in Denmark during the last year and a half. And finally, I have some things that I've considered during this work. Yes, so as I've said, my name is Rasmus Emil. I am 30 years old and I was born and raised in Midtjylland. It's the mainland, of Denmark. I have a wife, and Sophia, she's a psychologist, and we have a son who is 2.5 years old, and another son coming this January. I would describe myself as having a normal Danish youth where I went to school, and twice a week in the summertime I played football, and in the wintertime once a week I went to gymnastics. After I finished my schooling, I had what many young Danish children do, a year off around when you are 18, 19, 20 years old before you start your final education. A lot of young people have 1 year where they just take a year off and reflect on what they want. Some go traveling around the world, and for me, I worked with 2 organizations during this period. The first one being an organization called Ungdomsskolen, which is paid by the government. And what we did in Ungdomsskolen was kind of a youth club where we twice a week we had activities for children, young children in the age of 13 to 18 years old. Most of the time we just were at the local school where we did sports and played board games and just enjoyed time together. And sometimes we went bowling and went to the movies and stuff like that. Then I also worked with an organization called GGI, which is a voluntary organization that mainly focuses on gymnastics, but also have other sports. And during my work with this organization, I had a lot of different courses, and I also went abroad to Ghana in Africa, where we worked with raising women's and girls' rights through sports. And it was during this year where I did these 2 voluntary work that I started to get the interest in working with children and young people. And so actually one of the organizers of Ungdomsskolen said, would you like to become a teacher? You would be a great teacher. And I thought that would be, maybe that would be something for me. So I applied for the Danish School for Teachers, and I started there in 2012. And what I think is important about that is I got my motivation for it was the work with young children, to work with young children, help them understand themselves better and give them good experiences. So I started my teacher's career with that in mind, and not so much education. Today, education is also very important to me, but my first initial motivation was the well-being of the young person. Then I graduated in 2016 with majors in math and sports, and I have now been at Juelsminde School for almost 5 years. I took some time off when we got our son, August. I had some time off for a while, but now I'm back working here at Juelsminde School. The Danish elementary school system is built up on the fact that education is for all. Even if you're rich or poor, everybody should have the opportunity to get education. In fact, it's compulsory. So you have 1 year of preschool and then 9 years of school. So 10 years of compulsory education. And then you can choose to have an optional 10th grade. It is not required to have your education at an elementary school. You can go to private schools, or you can even be homeschooled. It is just required that you have these 10 years of education. And typically, we divide the 10 years into 4 parts. Kindergarten, which is kind of like preschool, where you start in what we call 0 grade, and you are around the age of 6 years old. And then we divide it into the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd grade, where you have your first years of primary level. Then there's intermediate, 4th to 6th grade, and finally there are the final years of compulsory school, 7th to 9th grade. And the teachers are typically also divided into these categories. So you have a teacher who teaches kindergarten year after year, and then you have teachers teaching 1st to 3rd grade, and then they follow a class from 1st grade, and they have them in 2nd grade and 3rd grade, and then they say goodbye to them and pass them over to new teachers who have them in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, and then they pass them on to new teachers who have them in 7th, 8th, and 9th grade. And that is where I am working. I am in the final years of compulsory school. Right now, I am on the 9th grade, teaching students their final year of school. And I'll come back to this later, why I think this is important to well-being of the students. We have a law in Denmark that says how we should work with children, and I have tried to translate it into English. So the Danish elementary school must, in cooperation with the parents, give the pupil the knowledge and skills which prepare them for further education and give them the will to learn more. And I think what is important here is it is in cooperation with the parents. We are highly focused on that the students' knowledge and skills should come from a cooperation between the teacher and the parents and the student. And we are focused on preparing them for further education. So most people do not only have the 10 years of education, most continue on beyond the elementary school. It also says it should create space for experience, understanding, and willpower so that a pupil develops confidence in its own opportunities and gets the will to act and take a stance. And here I think that the pupil develops confidence in its own opportunities. It's very important. We should give the students the willpower to have their own opinions and to say and think what they think is the right thing. That is very important for the Danish school system. And it should prepare the pupils for participation, responsibility, rights and duties in a society with freedom and democracy. The school must therefore be characterized by intellectual liberty, equality, and democracy. And here I think that intellectual liberty, equality, and democracy are very important. It's important that the students feel that they have a say in what we are working with in the school, that they get to decide what is important for them. And we try and teach them to have this willpower to say what they want. It is also important. Equality is also very important. Doesn't matter if you're rich or poor, highly liked or not that liked, everybody are equal. Then we have education, which is of course important for the Danish school system. We have certain subjects that the students must participate in. And for each subject, we have a curriculum. And those curriculums are divided into subcategories where for first to third grade, there are some standards that the students must reach. For fourth to sixth grade, the same. And for seventh to ninth grade, there are also some standards. So that by the end of school in ninth grade, we say that the students have, there are some things that they must have learned and they must know about. I will touch on the curriculum later because it's not like it is very strict what we have to teach. It is just more like some guidelines, but I'll talk about that later. So how do we work with well-being on a national level? Well, the Danish school has an objective to strengthen Danish pupils' well-being. Generally, our students are very happy about going to school. They feel safe and secure in school, and they like coming here. But anyways, we still have the objective to strengthen that even more and have children, all children be very happy about coming to school. So what we do is we have yearly measurements where we measure the well-being of the children. And this is done by questioning all Danish pupils within 4 indicators. The first one being social well-being, second one being academic well-being, third one being support and inspiration, and the fourth and final one being tranquility, and neatness. And I won't go too much into detail about all of these, but I'll just give a few examples on how they are measured. So the student asked these questions. Are you fond of your school? Others pupils accept me? Do other pupils accept me as I am? Have you been bullied, victimized within the last year? And questions like that are those who measure the social well-being of the child. Then there is the academic well-being. I do well in school academically. Do you succeed in learning what you want in school? Can you concentrate in class? My teacher thinks I make progress, and so on. These questions measure how the academic well-being of the child is. Then there is support and inspiration. And here are one of my favorite questions. Are classes boring? It's a very dangerous question to ask students, but of course it is an important question to ask. Are you and your classmates able to decide what is being taught in classes? As I said before, it is very important for the Danish school system that the students get to have a say in what they are being taught and also how they are being taught it. The children, it is very important for us that the children feel that they have a saying in what is going on in school. And finally, we measure tranquility and neatness. by these types of questions. It is easy to hear what the teacher is saying in class. Does your teacher show up on time for classes? And questions like these. So just the results of the yearly measurements are used on a national level. They have a look at all pupils in Denmark and decide whether or not the well-being is where it should be in Denmark. So this is used as a tool to see if the students are as happy as we like them to be. Then we use it on a local level here at Juelsminde School to see if our school is within the same parameters as the rest of the country. And this is important because maybe we are above the rest of the country, maybe we are below. If we are below, then we should have a look at what can we do to strengthen the well-being of the children. And if we are above, maybe we could have a look at what are we doing here that get our students to answer higher than other students. And finally, it is used on a class level by me, the teacher. I can go in and look at the results, not individually, but at a class level. I can have a look to see if my students are happy about coming to school and all the other indicators that are being measured. So it could look like this. The score, which is scored on 4 different levels, the darker blue being high and the lighter blue being low. And we can go in and have a look at, this is for all of the 4 indicators, but we can also go in and have a look at an individual question like this one. Are you happy? Are you fond of your school? And the orange one being never, and the darker green being very often. So we have the opportunity to have a look at each question, but also at a more broader term to see how does our school compare in these measurements. So that is how we work with well-being on a national level. So now I'm going to touch on how we work with it here at Juelsminde School. So at the school, we have written down together with the parents, the teachers and the management, what we call our core principles. And they are as follows. Schooling at Juelsminde School is characterized by education, cultural formation, and good manners. We want that the pupils succeed in becoming someone and something. Peace of mind, confidence, and trust are the core conditions for the pupils' desire to learn. We have positive expectations and ambitions on behalf of our pupils. We make a demand for the pupils to challenge themselves, to aim high, but we acknowledge and embrace that the process can be difficult and often is filled with unpredictability and uncertainty. We value when the pupils tries and put ourselves into uncharted territory, where it is okay to make mistakes. This is the way that pupils learn about themselves and the world around them. And here I think that the fact that we say it is important that the pupils succeed in becoming someone and something is important. So it is equally important to us that the students learn a lot and can take this with them in their life and become something, what they want to be, being a doctor or whatever they want to be. But it is equally important that they are someone. They are aware of who they are and what they stand for. This is achieved by peace of mind, confidence, and trust, which I think are very important, especially trust between the pupils and trust between the pupils and the teacher. I will touch on that later. And also, we acknowledge and embrace that the process can be difficult, and we value when the pupil tries and puts itself into uncharted territory where it is okay to make mistakes. It's important for us that mistakes are okay. Mistakes are crucial to learning. If you do not dare to make mistakes, you do not dare to put your mind into new situations. You are not creative and you are not willing to take risks. And it is important for us that it should be very okay to make mistakes. Here at Jules Mini School, we have these core principles. Then we have something called my time or reflection time. And this is once a week. We have one lesson where the students have time to reflect on their learning. And we use this for all kinds of different things. Right now in my class, we are working with setting goals for both an educational goal, but also a personal goal. They can vary from my personal goal is trying to raise my hand more. Some have a personal goal of asking my classmates to spend time with me after school. And the educational goals are like, I want to become better at English grammar or at certain parts of math or stuff like that. Then we have what we call class teachers. And this means that a teacher is, I teach in multiple classes, but one class is my class, which means that I am responsible for the children in this class. If something or something goes wrong, I am the one talking to the pupil. That can be both here in school, if they do not act like they are supposed to, then it is me who talks to them. If there is something important with their parents, it is me who talks to them and their parents. And this class teacher is a partnership. So we are always two teachers who have a class together. And preferably this is done by having a male and a female teacher. I'm sorry. Yeah, having a male and a female teacher being the class teachers. Then there's also the teacher-parent cooperation. It is important for us that we have a strong partnership with the parents. So we have a lot of communication with the parents weekly, where we tell them how things are going. And if things are going very good, the communication is not that often. And when things are not going so good, the communication is more often. Finally, we have what is called PPR, Pedagogical Psychological Consultancy. And this is teachers, psychologists, parents, and management who meet if we have something that we are not able to take care of in class. Then we meet and we have a discussion on how we want to do things. And this can vary from a student having difficulty sitting still and listening to the lessons and doing their homework. In extreme cases, not the normal young child, but there are some who have too much energy to sit still and participate in what we call normal school. So we talk with them, but it can also vary to more serious things like home violence or sexual abuse or things like this. This is also worked with at PPR. Finally, we have, and I haven't put this on here because I forgot, but now I remembered. We have a special class for the 8th and 9th grade children who have difficulties being in school. They already now they know that they do not want to educate themselves further. They just want to go out in society and work. And what is done here is that they are in school 3 days a week, and 2 days a week they are out in the society somewhere and have working. Some work at the hairdressers, some work at the plumbers and stuff like this. And this class, we have 600 children at this school, and there are about 15 students in this type of class. So finally, I'm going to touch on how I work with well-being. So the circumstances that I work under is the law that I briefly talked about, the one that said we should prepare the children for further education and for having their own will to take their own stance. Then I have the educational curricula, and this is made. I talked about these subcategories, and for example, in math, it doesn't say what I should teach in trigonometry, for example, but it says that the student must have the knowledge and the skill to solve certain parts of trigonometry. So it is up to me, the teacher, to decide how this is done and what I want to teach the children. Then there's this objective to strengthen the pupils' well-being by these yearly measurements of well-being. Then I have the Justmine Skole core principles. And then, of course, I have to take into consideration that I am teaching 7 to 9 graders. So now I would briefly read out a poem because I think that it summarizes very good how I think a teacher should be. And I've tried to translate it into English, but I don't think that it makes the Danish poem justice. So I will briefly read it out here in Danish first, just for those listening here in Denmark, and then I'm going to read it out in English. Og han kunne mere end sin ABC, for han kunne lege og slås med sne, og lærte os mere om at tro på os selv, end om det vi skulle glemme alligevel. And in English it says, he could more than just the alphabet, because he could play games and have snowball fights. He taught us more about believing in ourselves than what we would forget anyways. I think this poem is very strong and says a lot about how I think a teacher should work with children. Of course, it is important that the children learn the subjects that we are working with. But for me, it is way more important that the children learns to trust themselves, to believe in themselves, and get the willpower to speak their own mind. So how do I achieve this? On an individual level in class, I think it's very important that pupils must have the feeling that they are being noticed and appreciated. Every student. And this is done by, and this seems kind of trivial, but remembering their name. This is trivial and is something that very quickly is done, but on a weekly basis, I have contact with 140 children, directly contact, and then secondary contact in hallways and around with a lot more children. So it is a lot of names. After I have their names, I start remembering how are their families. Are their parents divorced? How many siblings do they have? And things like this. Then I start remembering their interests. and I start learning their personality. Are they the quiet type who doesn't like me talking to them in a hallway with a lot of people? Are they more like the outgoing type who likes the attention? And I start remembering this about the children. And all of this I achieve by showing sincere and honest interest in the child. It is very important to me that every child in my class knows that I care for them, that I want the best for them. And I do this by asking. It is important to me that when I ask a question, it is sincere. It doesn't matter what the question is, but when I ask the question, I am willing to hear what they are saying, what their opinion is. So the question could be something stupid like, what do you think about goldfish? Or it could be more deeper, like, what is your opinion on what we see going on in Afghanistan right now? The important thing is just that when I ask a question, I'm willing to sit there and listen to what the student have to say. And what is difficult about this is that it is in a classroom. So how do I work with well-being in the classroom? So a classroom can be very chaotic and vibrant. So when I talk to one student, other students might try to get my attention. And for me, it is important not to ignore this, but to acknowledge it by saying, yes, Andreas, I heard you and I will be with you in a moment. But right now I am talking to Marie. This way I show the student, I see you and I know that you're here and you want to talk with me. But right now I have devoted my time to this student, and it teaches the students to wait, but also that they are equally important to me, everyone. In the classroom, I think it's also important to resolve conflicts. Whenever conflicts occur between two students, I think the more serious ones could be resolved in other ways. But I think it's important to talk about it, to understand what feelings did you start in me when you said this about me, and have a discussion about it in class so that the students understand each other's feelings and what their actions do to others. Then there is something in Danish schools, young students do not have a very nice language. They can say some very bad words, and it is important for me to show them that it is not okay to speak such curse words. That is something that is within the youth culture today. And I think it's also important to show them who I am and what I stand for. So I often share stories about my life with the students and talk to them about my life, as well as we talk about their lives. So for me, it is important for them to know that we are all equal and working together. And the tools I use for this are, of course, the yearly measurements that we get from on a national level, and also the teacher partnership. So my teacher, my class teacher colleague, when I see a student, maybe I see a student being sad one day, then when I meet my teacher colleague, class teacher colleague, I ask them, did you also see him or her being sad today? Do you know why? Should we talk with them? And we have this communication all the time, trying to understand the students better. Yes, we had lockdown here in Denmark twice. What we learned from homeschooling was it was challenging to work with well-being, because a lot of the things that we do to work with this are things that just happen in the classroom. And they didn't happen as much because when we are talking here at a screen, there is only one talking and a lot of people listening. So it was very difficult to work with well-being. So the way that we did achieve this was by having more individual talks with the students. We did some home visits outside, some baked cake for the students and drove out with them. And we tried to see them as often as we could. Homeschooling also gave us a new perspective. Students that we before saw as being quiet and never raising their hand suddenly excelled, and the situation of sitting behind the screen was more secure for them, and they were more willing to speak their will, which was very good for us to see, I think, because we could before this deem someone as being the quiet person, but maybe the classroom is just not the environment for them, and more this talk with the screen is more their way of going to school. And finally, I have some things I've considered during this work. We have these yearly measurements of well-being, and they are very quantitative. So they are done in massive scale, and we look at them and try to understand how our students are feeling. This we compare to how we think about them as a teacher, but maybe we could, if we want to succeed even more, we could have some more qualitative interviews with each student to understand why they are maybe not too fond of their school and stuff like this. And finally, I think that the structure of the school, our school here, is where I teach in 7th to 9th grade, and when I finish 9th grade, I start 7th again. Maybe there could be something won by going down and starting a 1st grade, and then following them all the way until 9th grade. This way I could get a more deeper understanding of the child and follow their upbringing and follow them through the school. Yes, so this was my presentation about how we work with well-being in the Danish school system and how we do it here at Jusmin School and what I do in my classroom. I want to thank Lisa and Anne and the Learning for Life. And also I want to thank you in China for the opportunity. And I look forward to our discussion.
Okay, thank you for having me. Really glad to be here to attend this forum. And it's an honor to listen to our Denmark colleague. It really brought me back to my time in Denmark when I visited. I'm an ordinary primary school teacher, and I've worked as a primary teacher for more than 30 years. And the way we teach in China is quite different from Danish methods. So today I'm going to talk about my perspective and what's my understanding of the internal motivation for learning. And any feedback is welcomed. And I look forward to discuss with our Denmark counterparts. A few days ago, I saw on a Chinese website this news. A 70-year-old village doctor, Han Fuhui, who lived in a very remote village. The name of the village is called Xianshan, as you can see on the screen, which is located in Fuzhou. He retired many years ago, and now his family live there in such a poor and remote area. And He's been there for 50 years, far away from his wife and family. He never escaped from his duty, no matter the weather or the difficulties. He is always there for his patient. So when I saw the news, I remember talking to myself, where does his drive come from? Because it's completely self-driven. If our children can be so driven in their learning or in their daily deeds, in doing good deeds. So I did some study also for this forum. So what is this internal drive? So internal drive is that in our interaction with our environment, the power created by individual that drives them forward. So Dr. Pan, when he interacts with his environment, what has driven him? An old man in his village said this. So I always see Dr. Pan. He has treated us for decades. Everyone trusts him, rely on him. And Dr. Pan said this. They can't live without me, and I can't live without them. For 50 years, we have a very strong connection. So the trust from his patients and their dependence on him makes Dr. Pan realize the value and meaning of being their doctor. That's why he can't leave them. He is 72-year-old now. So this sense of respect, trust, self-recognition, values. So he feels that his life is meaningful. So all we talk about is being needed, being respected. And in 2018, I visited Denmark for 15 days. And I had a very limited time visiting a kindergarten in Denmark. I did feel that. A child in their interaction with the environment they live in or in the environment that they study in, if they can feel being respected, being accepted, being recognized, and being needed, then he or she will feel the sense of pride and values. And therefore, he or she will have this internal drive to study. And I did feel that way in Denmark. This is a picture I took in a kindergarten in Denmark. And when you go to Chinese kindergarten, you will see very high-level drawings. Well, in Denmark, no matter the quality of the painting, every child is seen. Every child has the opportunity to have their painting shown. So this is a great way of making the child feel respected. And I saw this mini toilet in Denmark. So that means that a child is able to take care of his or her needs. Well, in China, children are being spoiled. Their family would take care of everything for them. In one way, you limit the child's freedom. On the other hand, you actually make the child less capable because they depend on others for simple things such as getting dressed up, having meals. So that's actually is actually not helpful for a child to gain sense of meaning and value. So we actually send a photo to the Denmark kindergarten before visiting them, so that children knows that who are coming. So this is also a way to respect the children as right to be informed. And also I saw this kind of hole. In the beginning, I was quite confused. I didn't know what was that. But then I was told that these windows are for transparency. So you see, everyone in Denmark, every citizen, be it adult or child, has a place in society, and they have the right to supervise the government. So every child should feel being seen and being recognized. And this is the environment they're in. They can interact with their friends freely. And this picture touched me the most. And they built something together with the teacher, so they feel needed. They contribute. They will feel that they are able to do something useful. So during my visit there, I do feel that children are trusted, respected, and are given such a lenience and freedom. So they have the opportunity to do labor and to work on things that they want. And this gives them, say, a sense of a pride and dignity. I think that's also one of the reasons why Denmark ranks so high in the happiness index. A happy child will grow up to be a happy adult. And a happy childhood is the wealth for someone, for a person during his or her lifetime. So when you treat children well, you're actually cultivating a great future for a nation. It's because they were recognized, respected, and they felt needed in their childhood. When they grow up, they will have very strong sense of drive. So this is my association of the 72-year-old doctor and the kindergarten in Denmark. So how can we cultivate the internal drive of a child in school so that they have the drive for study, for their later on life? I want to share with you some stories. The first story, there's a very famous teacher named Si Xia who worked at the affiliated primary school of Nanjing Normal University. She teaches the first and second grade. In China, primary school students started at the age of 6. And when she taught a first grader, a child wrote this in their diary. Today, some female nannies visited us in our school. So you see, there's a redundant in the language the child uses, female and nanny, because nanny are all females. So most teachers would correct the child on the spot. But Si Xia didn't do that. She said, the child's too young. They don't have the sense of gender yet. I do not want to put a cross on their diary. This will make them feel humiliated. When they grow up, they will learn this naturally. So from this very small story, you understand they do have a respect. And also they understand the normal process of child development. The child is only 6 years old. He or she doesn't realize that all nannies are female yet. So this is a very natural mistake, and it's too trivial to be corrected. So she understands this is quite normal for the child's age, and she thinks that in grade 2, the child will realize this. So instead, she just let it go. And I heard that in Denmark, there are few tests and examinations in primary school, because a test, an examination, is a way to evaluate the students. So right now in the first and second grade in China, no written test allowed. So we're respecting the rules of nature, allowing children a happier childhood.
And that kind of respect gives children a sense of dignity. And the second story goes like this. Well, there was a kid in my class who was diagnosed with minor autism. In China, classes are very large, having 40 or 50 students. And one teacher oversees quite a lot of classes. Headmasters are often very swamped. It is very difficult for the teachers to actually attend to each and every student with great details. Well, it is very difficult to talk to everyone at the same time. Some student must wait. And for that student, he was very shy. He could not leave his table. He, from morning till evening, could not even go to the bathroom. Because of that illness, he felt scared of everyone and everything around him. He could not feel safe in that environment. How could there be anything to do with well-being or self-motivation? And over time, we learned the reason was minor autism. First, in my class, I spent a lot of time with him. Whether anyone else was there, I tried to keep him company and also tried to be friends with him. First, having him to trust me was a great start. And also inviting him to trust other people in that environment. I told him that no one, is going to hurt you, but that doesn't work. I was the headmaster. What I did was I told the colleagues that everyone develops differently. For example, babies learn to walk at different pace. And so we now understood for this child, he's not there yet. He still doesn't know anyone. He still feels scared. And when you walk toward him, he would squat down and he would cover his eyes. And that was out of fear. What should we do? We should first remove the fear from him instead of telling him we should show him he does not need to fear. We could tell him that we would not go too close to him. So we don't walk too close to this child. So the child feels that he has a safe space. Only when he has a sense of security can he start to trust. After he has a trust towards other classmates, he could be accepted by everyone. And also, that would help him to really interact with other children smoothly, and his potential could be released. In the beginning, he could not move at all. He could only, shrink himself into a little ball, and he felt tired every few steps that he walked. I encouraged him to work out and to do skip ropes, and other students in the classroom also were glad to help him out. And because of that, the kid wanted to skip rope and wanted to show himself in front of others. And in the end, I'm not going to show you his face. Well, he actually skipped rope 20 times in front of the whole class, which was not easy. He stopped every skip. and pull up his pants, but all the students and parents were just clapping for him, and that was great encouragement for him. And those 20 skips precisely came from the community, the environment, which was showing acceptance, tolerance, and kindness, and love from the students, and that gave him a confidence and dignity, and that also gave him a continuous self motivation and driving force. And he wanted and he was willing to skip rope. He actually skipped with his back facing the students instead of his front. But for a community, we need to be 100% inclusive and acceptive, to truly embrace them and understand them and give them the love that they want so that they enjoy dignity, which helps them to understand the value and the significance of their own life. So the second story is about acceptance. Third story, he wasn't very good at academic performance. By grade 6, he only got a single, less than 10 points out of 100 in exams. He would typically be rated as a someone that is lagged behind, and scores are very telling in most schools. So this kid was regarded as a slow student. It was difficult for him to feel recognized, which gave him poor confidence. He was also energetic, so he became a troublemaker. I remember there was a time he actually punched a girl's eyes. He got this girl a black and blue around her eyes, and he felt bad, actually. That was because he was often beaten up by his parents at home, which is not a very good way of teaching. But sometimes corporate punishment is quite common in Chinese families, and corporate punishment actually diminishes the value of students even more. Students feel that parents don't love them. Instead, they only love the scores, and such a mindset would further diminishes their self-value. This child received a lot of beating from his own parents at home. I talked to him once. I asked, "How could you beat a girl?" And then he said, "My dad also beats my mom at home." That is actually not true. His dad only pushed his mom, but for a kid, pushing counts as beating. I then asked him, "Dad, don't you feel anything by punching a girl like this?" I thought he would show empathy or remorse. He said, "No, because I also got beaten up black and blue at home." After hearing his answers, I didn't know what to say. I felt bad for him. He wasn't a good student, academically speaking. Nobody really liked him. He wasn't popular either with his teachers or students. It's the same back at home. When I met him, he was already 11 years old. However, he wasn't in a good place. He even said things about committing suicide. I felt really sorry. So I said to the girl, "Well, I feel bad for him." And that girl is super kind. She all of a sudden started to cry. While crying, she said, "I don't need an apology from him anymore. I forgive him because I feel so sorry for him. He's in a much worse place than I am." And then the girl walked away. That taught us kindness. Everyone saw how kindness was like in action. For the boy, he also felt he was embraced with kindness. which was very strange to him because he never felt that at home. So as teachers, if we create an atmosphere of acceptance, tolerance, and love, the students and the children can feel they're cared about, they're loved, they're seen. And once they have that mindset, it will be very valuable. In the classroom, we have all sorts of platforms for the students. I learned that he really is interested in traditional Chinese medicine or herbal medicine. So I actually encouraged them to attend such a workshop, and then he could come back to the classroom and share what he learned with everyone. And that way he showed his own value. That little sharing that he did was very successful. Let's see what comments he received. He said, "What the slowest student, quote unquote, actually is a medicinal expert. Seems like we should not judge a book by its cover. I see the gap between me and him." And now students see that everyone excels at different things. And one student said, "I hope the teachers should also see his bright side." Well, that probably indicates that sometimes the teachers are not very fair because they only look at scores. But some students also said, "Gao, just want to say to you that good job and soar to greater heights." Seeing these comments would make the child feel that his life is meaningful, significant, and he could feel that he could also make contributions. So we have a lot of opportunities created for students in the classroom. Every child has his or her own world, and we should give them a stage for them to shine in the classroom and the school. We want the students to feel the meaning of their life, the value of their life, and that they can be recognized by others. That really wakes up and his intrinsic motivation. And that's what happened. And with the caring, the kindness, and acceptance, and tolerance, and encouragement from everyone, the boy gradually opened up. And by the time of graduation, he actually became an A student. He has been working quite a few years, and during COVID, he actually did some achievement. He sometimes would come back and visit me, and seeing what his life is like today, I see that we woke up his intrinsic motivation and give him the power and agency so that he could keep moving up and moving towards the goodness. And that's the meaning of being an educator and a teacher. That's the third story. And see, he's already a big boy now, very sunshiny, and it's hard to imagine what it was like as a kid. And that's his third story.
Well, I quite agree with the previous speaker. Primary school in Denmark sees the value of working with parents, which I agree is quite important. So parents play a big role in a child's life. So in my class, I'm working to strengthen my communication with parents. This is a parent who smokes for 28 years, who smokes 2 packs a day, very addicted. And then he noticed that his son sometimes doesn't have the will to finish the task and is very careless. And he reflects on himself. He tried to quit smoking for years but never succeeded. And so after talking to the parents, he said that he wants to demonstrate to his son, to set a good example for his son by quitting smoking. And the son also want to make the dad proud, want to set a good example. So the son actually thinks that he is needed. His father needs him, and he can create some value by lead by example. So in the past, the son can only jump 160 ropes per minute. And then he set a goal of 2,000 times a day. But he didn't tell me in the beginning, and I didn't know why he did that. So he's completely self-driven. So he wants to prove to his dad that he can do it. He wants to lead by example. So it's quite interesting, the father-son dynamic. The father wants to set a good example by quitting smoking, and the son wants to set a good example by achieving his goal in sports. So you see, they're on an equal footing. And we can see the power of this drive. In the end, the son could achieve 280 times of jumping ropes in a minute. So this is a video of him representing our school in a district competition. So we sent 6 students, 3 girls, 3 boys. Guess which one is him? See, even an outstanding athlete would get some nerves in competition. So this is him. So at that moment, he actually did 280 times per minute. Nobody ever asked him to practice rope jumping. It comes from the need of him. He wants to feel needed. He wants to encourage his dad. And this drive will not only be not only manifest on rope jumping, but on other things as well. In his learning, in his daily behavior. So he's making efforts, wants to become a better self than yesterday. So to take jumping ropes example, from 160 to 280 per minute, that's a huge improvement. And he also improved a lot in his scores. So as long as a person has this drive, wherever he is, whatever job he does, he can become a valuable person. And he can find the significance of life. This feeling of being needed is actually a very high-level behavior, because he's doing this not for himself, but for others. It's quite selfless, just like Dr. Pan. Being trusted, being accepted. I have another story for it. A teacher said, your child is too stupid. He's only dragging other students down. Please take him home. The mother said, I don't think so. He's smarter than most children at his age. If you don't want him, I'll take him home. I will teach him. I'll teach him well. So who is this child? The child grew up to be famous inventor Edison, who has more than 1,000 inventions. But when he was a child, he was deemed stupid because of the love of the mother, the acceptance, faith, and trust of his mother turned him into a useful man. So I think the confidence the mother has in the son has awakened his drive. Edison said that I cannot let her down. So all in all, I think that the Self-drive for learning comes from the sense of value, comes from childhood, comes from the environment, the acceptance, faith, trust of an environment to a kid. The child must feel that his life is valuable and meaningful. I'll stop here. Thank you so much for
谢谢
listening.
Hello, thank you very much for letting me join this conference. My name is Mads Poulsen, and I'm from Ejsbjerghus International Efterskole, that is in Denmark. Efterskole is a very Danish concept, so I will spend the first couple of minutes just explaining why we have this concept of efterskole in Denmark. Efterskole is a concept where you stay at school. You will think that it's kind of a boarding school, but it's not the same as a boarding school. This is a school where students choose to come on their own. They can spend the 9th or the 10th grade year in an efterskole. In an efterskole, you will take part in the classes, and they will typically from 8 o'clock, till 5 o'clock in the afternoon. And afterwards, they stay at school, they live at school, and the same classrooms that they have been teaching in, they use as their home. So they will be part of a community that are there for 24/7. It's a one-year stay. And all of the teachers who have been teaching them during the classes in English, math, Cambridge math, or so on, they will also be part in the evening activities. So you see, you will meet the students both in an academic sense in the classrooms, and you will always also have the chance to talk with the students in a more informal way in the evenings, where you plan some evening activities. We are quite proud of our efterskole concept in Denmark. It's right now in Denmark, it's very big. So we have 250 schools in Denmark, and that's a huge number in a small country like Denmark. This year, actually, around 32,000 students are participating in a year in an efterskole. And that is, in percentage, it's around 30 to 40% of every young student in the 9th or 10th grade, they go to an efterskole. 10th graders are not, it's not a mandatory year, so it's an extra year that the students choose to have in a school like an efterskole. The typical reasons would be that they would like to mature, they would like to evolve in academics, but they also have some personal things that they would like to be better in before going to high school or university. It's a choice made by, in Denmark, it's often the students who make that choice to participate in an extra year. The parents are paying because it's a private school form in Denmark, so the parents will have to pay for the students to participate in an efterskole. But it's often the students who choose to go to an efterskole with a specific profile. So they choose to be part of something that they would like to evolve in. And then brings me back to my school, and it's Ejsbjerghus International Efterskole. Our profile is that we would like to work with the students with the cultural meetings. For us, it's very important that the students, they know that we are a small country. We are part of a big world. So we would like to give our students some knowledge, some things that they can do when they go out in the world to study, to live, or to travel. So we are very focused on the cultural meetings with our exchange partners. And in our school, we have 120 students. They're here for 1 year. 100 students are here for the 10th grade. 20 students are here for the 9th grade. The staff is approximately 25, 26 employees. And they will be teaching in normal subjects that they will have in other schools also, like Danish, math, English, German, and so on. But we also give them some classes in some special academics that we think are very popular or very important for them to have in their life to come. For us, it's global citizenship, global perspectives, going global. That is subjects where we teach them some kind of theory and some kind of practice about how to meet up with students from all over the world. And instead of looking at differences, we look at the similarities. Where do we have things that make us equal? And that is the way that we work with the students all year long. When you go to an after school, you don't go here only for the academics. You go here because you would like to evolve in academics, but you also come to our school because you would like to evolve also with your social skills and your personal skills. And that is why I think it's so important that when you look at students, you don't only teach them academics, we also have a responsibility to make sure that these students are in a state of mind, in a state of their social skills, so they can evolve in the system that they are taking part of. When I meet up with upcoming students or upcoming parents, it's very important for me to say that you will have to think that all three legs in this on this chair is important. You will have to work with the cultural meeting, you have to work with the academics, and you will also have to work with your personal social skills. Because in an after school where you are 24/7 and 120 students are here in a small area, you will have to learn how to function with people who are different from yourself, but also to know yourself so well that when you have issues with some things that is not going the right way for you, you will know how to handle them. So we spend a lot of time. We have a concept called contact groups. So every student is a part of a small family group. The group this year consists of 20 students with 2 teachers. That is the small family at our school. They will be the one you can talk with. They will be the one you can share your thoughts with. They will also have a kind of curriculum that they have to spend with the students. And in the beginning of the year, we talk with the students about values, which values we have at school, but also which values they will have to be the ones that characterize their stay at school in their room. They are living in rooms with 3 or 4 students, so they have to function in this room. So they have to make some core values for themselves that they will like to be the ones that characterize them as the room number 10. They have these 4 values characterizing them. So that's the first step we make with the students. Afterwards, we will have a talk about with the students, why are you here? What would you like to take with you when you leave school? So we have a kind of a curriculum that they have to participate in during the whole year, where they will be working not with the academics, but with their social skills and with their personal skills. And for me, as a headmaster and an efterskole, it is very, very important that academics, social skills, and the individual things, they go hand in hand. I think that we deliver students at the end of the school year who are very, very ready for the next step in their education. We have to take care that the students don't get too much stress, not only about the academics, but also about their personal evolution. So by doing this kind of curriculum where we have talks about their personal skills, their social skills, I think we give them some tools to handle the situations that they will come in during their life. And that's why we have a saying in Denmark that a stay in an efterskole is actually 7 years of evolution, because you get so many tools, so many situations that you can use when you go on in the education system. In our school, besides just having this focus on the social and individual evolution, we try to give them the situation with meeting different kinds of people. So that's why our program also includes an exchange program where we have schools in Chengdu in China, in Osaka in Japan, in Seoul in South Korea, San Sebastian in Spain, in Budapest in Hungary, and in Guwahati in India. So every student will go on an exchange program where they will have the chance to reflect on the knowledge they have gotten of themselves, but also when they meet a people or persons who are very different from themselves, we try to teach them not to look for differences, but to look in similarities. Do we listen to the same music? And if we have differences, why is there a difference? Why do students in China have a greater focus on academics than we have? What is the reason? They have to be curious. We think that through the knowledge of the difference, they will get a future understanding on themselves, and therefore they also will be more able to comprehend when they meet challenges in their life. So our focus at school, and also I think in general in the free schools in Denmark, is that we will like our students, we will like our staff to know that if you would like to have the greatest change in the students, you have to look not only at the academics, but also at the social skills and the personal skills of the students. We have these contact groups. We have one employee whose only job is to make sure that these contact groups teachers are functioning on the best. We have different kinds of people coming in telling us what is the trend in the time, what are we supposed to be looking at right now to make sure that we give our students the biggest chance of evolving in the right way to make sure that they have success in their education. No matter if they are going to have a higher education as a lawyer or a doctor, or if they are going to be a carpenter. It is very, very important that they know about the different issues of making problems, not bigger problems, but making problems, small problems, and then how to comprehend and have success in the meeting with them. So I think the greatest role for us is not only as an academic teacher, but when I talk with people about our school, I tell them that in the evening or in the afternoon, we go from being teachers to being greater siblings or parents. So we are taking care of some kind of raising the children, giving them some tools to function as a group, to function as an individual. And that is the most important thing, I think, for us as a school, that we give them the tools to succeed onwards. And we are not the happiest country in the world. And all of our students, they also have issues. Right now, the big issue in Denmark is anxiety. They are very stressed about if they are doing a good enough job. Will they succeed in life? Are they perfect enough? So right now, that's the big issue for us. And we spend a lot of time talking with our students about it's okay to make failures. It's okay not to be the best. You should try your best. But sometimes there will be students or countries that are better than us. But we have to do our best to make sure to reach the potential that we have in our body. So that is what we work with at our school. We have a program for working with the social skills and the personal skills to try to make them more happy, to make them more satisfied about their life, but also in doing that to succeed in their academics. So that is the goal for us as a school, is to make students evolve, to make sure that they make the best of their life. When we meet with these parents, and we have a parent-teacher meeting 3 times a year, the issue will always be with all 3 focus areas: So they will get a knowledge about the academics. We will talk with them about how they are ready for the next step in education. But we will also talk with them about how they function as an individual in our school, how they are interacting socially with all the other students at school and with us as a staff. In Denmark, we are not on a surname basis with our student. We are on a first name basis, and they are also on a first name basis with me. So I always tell my teachers that we will get the respect of the students, not because I'm the headmaster or they are the teachers. We will get the respect of the students when we make the students know that we actually have something that they will profit of gaining. We have knowledge, we have life skills, we have situations and the academics that can teach them things that they will surely have to use later on in their education and in their life. Because our focus is not only on giving the students the highest level of education, it is also on making sure that they are in a position where they can succeed as an individual. We have this tradition that once a year, our old students can come visit our school. And when we have students who have, it's 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or 25 years ago that they moved on from our school, we eat dinner with them in the evening, and we inspire them to tell us, what did you take with you from your stay at our school? What have you used in your life? And where are you right now in your life? Not only in a matter of a job or education, but also in a matter of personality. Which evolution or change did you go through from here, when you were here at Icebjerghus, until where you are now in your life? And it's so enriching to hear our former students tell us about the experiences, the travels, the meeting with other people who are very different from themselves, that by looking at others, they have got a mirror on their self and on themselves and their own potential, and how they released some of that potential in their life. And I think the best thing is when they, 20 years after they left school, still know who we are, by first name know who I am, then we have done something right in our way of talking with the students and handling the students. So that will be my presentation of an efterskole concept and our school, Icebjerghus. Hopefully you think there is something that you would like to ask me about, and then I will be happy to answer some questions. Thank you.
Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon or good morning. Hi, Principal Paulson. I would also like to share, this is a great forum. It's an international one, so I actually created bilingual slides. I taught in a public school for 12 years in the primary section, and then I learned about Howard Wardroff education. I know such schools also exist in Denmark, and I have colleagues there as well. After learning about Howard Gardner's son, Wardroff School, I really was inspired. I wanted to know whether we could find new ways to work with the students. That is why I went to the UK to further my study. Then I created the first Waldorf school here in China. Now there are over 500 pupils in primary and 200 in kindergarten. We also offer trainings, etc. Thank you for giving me this topic to elaborate on. I actually thought a while after receiving the topic. So now when we talk about wellness, internal force, driver, and happiness. Well, of course, I wanted to share with you the perspective of my school, and within the framework, which is the national policies and a larger environment, how we manage to develop the whole person education and to integrate and consolidate different subjects. And when I thought about this topic, I think it is very important for us to see the important things. And first is to really see the life of the children and the status of their lives. Only in that way can the students want and enjoy to learning. And Confucius always once said, "Those who know is not as conversed as those that want to know." And so that is why we would like to look at the academic experience as well as other types of experience to see how these can be incorporated into their life, including our relationships with the students. That's why I decided to have this theme, which is infuse those a part of life. And so everything that the students see and think should be part of their life. And this is the blackboard or chalkboard. My school is very unconventional. We don't actually use that many slides in primary school. And so we say we're the primitives or the cavemen. And so on the chalkboard, it's on a task done by sixth graders. We have two chalkboards in the public area, and the two classes on grade 6 are responsible for these two. They are tasked with paintings and drawings relating to the seasonal changes, and really love sharing their creation on my WeChat with my friends, and I see how they structure things differently. But that's not the most important thing. I think is how you see the vividness of their life.
And you can see this painting. Well, this painting is inspired by a traditional poem. See that their painting is quite powerful, and it's quite soft. It's not something rigid. See how they draw the reed. And I particularly love how they draw the fishes. Each fish is dynamic. It's on the move, and also quite like the color as well. In another painting of theirs, they drew roses, seeds, potato. Sixth graders, how they use colors. And in their layout and colors, you can see the power of life. They didn't even forget the roots and the details of roots. So they do understand how potatoes extract nutrition from the roots. So they be able to present those paintings so lively is because next to our school, and Li Zhenxi always joke about how pretty our school is, saying that we are the most beautiful school in China. But anyway, our school is located right next to a pond where you can see reeds, you see flowers, and we have a garden where children would plant seeds by themselves. They would labor, they would harvest their own labor. So those paintings really touched me deeply because this shows how well they observe the nature around them. But if you give them the concrete forest, the white and black data, the code names. So I think that this will not awake such a beauty in their mind. Invited here, I've been thinking about the power of life. And we should not just do lip service. So we have our own methods and philosophy in teaching, and that's how we gained our reputation. So I would like to talk about 5 aspects. So it doesn't matter what kind of school you want to build. Of course, there are many theories behind it, all kinds of school. What is important is whether children can really demonstrate their life freely in a campus and in a very meaningful environment. Of course, knowledge is important about their learning, but I want to talk about 5 aspects. So how we allow our children to grow and learn together with their community, teachers, parents. We need to allow these to be a part of children's life. So what are these? First is the children of nature, the children of life, the children of culture, the children of art, the children of life. The reason why I repeated those words is because I really see the importance of them. In the life of a child, is examination important? Yes, but it's not the ultimate goal of education. What can teach them more than nature? What can enrich them more than life, culture, art, and their own life? The children of nature. My understanding is that we need to cultivate a close link between the children and nature. And our school is 17-year-old. So about 17 years ago, we had the concept of exchange or studying. Just like Confucius once said, one learn in the process of a journey. So learning is a serious matter, but we don't have to be serious all the time. So we can also learn through games, through playing. In kindergarten, play is learning. In many schools, learning are made look like something too serious. They even have a class called tree climbing class. And I kind of feel strange. Why do we need to teach tree climbing? So you make everything a class. It makes everything so formal and so serious. This should be just a very natural. It comes natural to our children. Of course, we need to do our best to cultivate such an environment. We are a non-profit school, so we don't have investors, and we don't have any agencies making profit out of the students. So we use what we have, make most use of what we have. We want to design an environment that is clean, lush, and natural. In the pond, they will be able to see goose, ducks, and more renovations in the process right now. We have boats. As you know that there are many birds in Chengdu. And we have all kinds of birds that is rare in other cities. For example, we have egrets. When egrets are flying in a line, it's unmatched beauty. Another part of the environment is the relationship with their classmates and teacher. You see, when children are allowed to climb the trees, remember when we were children, how did it feel to hide something on the tree, to have our little secret on a tree? And in kindergartens, this warm relationship with teacher, this warmth and this trust is so precious. And of course, a mission of a school is to teach them knowledge as well. So we need to teach them how to sing, how to read poems, how to write poems. The picture on the left lower corner is done by teachers and students all together, and this forms a part of their environment. You can see the jingle tree leaves they draw, and through learning about solar terms, through painting the solar terms, they have deep learning. For example, the poem on the right, the traditional poem they've learned, we choose poems that allow them to think the relationship between mankind and nature. So I've been teaching throughout my career. So we have subjects such as history, geography that I love to teach. So for those classes, when it's sunny, I would take them out. We will sit under a ginkgo tree and we'll discuss the subjects together. And also we want them to be the children of life. Poets like Du Wei and Tao Yuanming all stress on the importance of life. So what to do? The pictures is about three third graders doing farming. So we give them really trust for them to operate the knife themselves. And of course, there have been some trainings and supervisions. And we allow them to go down to mines and see how the ores are being mined and how hard the work is. The purity level is only about 0.025%. And we also have a class about local geography. So this painting is called A Walk Around Jinjiang. So this is a field trip, and we asked them to draw the trip. And on the right side is a picture of our community. For older children, we'll show them power generation, automobile maintenance factory, automobiles repair shops. We also sometimes will give them 5 yuan and send them to 100 kilometers away and see if they can survive. Of course, they're paired up with teachers. So, of course, safety is our priority. We want them to embrace life and every aspect of it. We also take them to walk the Silk Road so that they can see the landscape and see things that are real. So at each solar term, we will celebrate with them with rituals. So this is about learn from life. They will learn the sense of awe and respect, and learn to accept failures, disappointment, and learn how to work. The third aspect, the children of culture. So we want them to enter culture and thoughts in depth. So right now, children's life is being too disoriented and fragmented by games and technology. So we want them to become more cultured. So when we teach them Chinese characters, of course, we need to consider their level of understanding at different age. So if you teach them this way, no children will hate learning about characters. We started from oracles. The inscriptions on oracle bones and how the characters evolve, how calligraphy evolves over time. We also teach them about the glazed ceramics and potteries from Tang and Song dynasty. Through those potteries, they will learn the cultures of Tang dynasty, when Chinese culture was much more open and people were much more outgoing and less reserved. And in Song dynasty, people become much more reserved and less open. So you can see the change of personality and culture are reflected in the artifacts. And we also talk about the confidence of culture, and especially in terms of culture. So we have to allow children to go deeper into their own culture in order to gain confidence. So this is a traditional archery. So we have a teacher teaching the subject. They will start at 6th grade, and together with their history class. They need to not only reading about archery on paper, but also to learn the skill archery and also the manners of archery. It's not about shooting people with arrows. And also future facing. On the right, they need to learn about the ancient Greek histories. On the left, the pictures of a temple. So we want to enrich their life with culture. So starting from 6th grade, we'll start some physics. We need to teach them simple phenomena about burning, magnet. So this is how we introduce STEM class into their learning. So poetry, music, history, no matter the subject, we have to pick their interest first. So you want them to not only learn about history, but also draw a painting of it, therefore gaining a deeper understanding. Fourth, the children of art. Art is the best bridge and catalyst. Arts is not only limited to instruments, drawing, painting, but also handicrafts. So we also have a hall that holds exhibitions of children's work. In 5th grade, they will learn about the prehistory time, Xia dynasty, Qin dynasty, and Shang dynasty. So they actually made the painting all by themselves. This would not be possible if they don't have a deep understanding of that history.
We asked them to draw the school after taking them to the rooftop for a bird view of the campus. Well, look, these are fifth graders. We're learning about plants. But through drawing, they got to learn about plants, about the earth, and they could go to outdoor space and to draw what they saw in nature. This is also from fifth graders, and they actually drew the solar terms and the lunar forms. This is how to wake up knowledge and skills with art. That is attractive even for us. Art takes a lot of time, but students are willing to get involved. Next to drama, they are staging a play for over 1,000 guests from China and abroad. It's a Sichuan opera, a very traditional drama. As higher graders, you see how they actually grasp the colors and shapes and geometry. Well, this is definitely of a higher level. Many of them actually attend courses for a fairly long period of time to acquire a certain degree of art appreciation and creation. And with these colors, we can really warm up the hearts of students. These are our creation by the students as well. Last, the children of life. Everyone has willpower and value. Just now, Mins talked about how everyone is in pursuit of them. I think that's universal. But how do we see the value of children? That's our job as teachers. From a very early age, we see students are still playing. We see how vivid their lives are. We need them to open up their chest and their mind so that their lives can shine. These are more profound themes. Some teachers made studies about plants. The students, one student did like 4 kingdoms, the minerals, the the flora, the fauna, and human. The students did the classification themselves, and to the right you see the couplets, and to the left it says the heaven, the earth, and to the right it says the tilling and the reading. So you see the relationship between man and nature, and this is a very famous love drama from the traditional opera. And by playing these dramas, the students could see better of themselves and others and the world. These are higher graders who actually expanded from a buzzword on the internet, which is written on the chalkboard. And that is how the students actually exhibited their own interests and how they customized their own projects based on the interests. They are brought to the rest of the world to see the value across the globe, to see the relationships with the others, to understand the different cultures. And that's what we did. We took them to the border of Kazakhstan along the ancient Silk Road for them to see and experience exotic cultures and to build culture sensitivity. And on that Monday, we watched the flag raising ceremony and sing the national anthem. And we also read this poem, which is written by Rudolf Steiner, an Austrian philosopher. And this is a translation of his poem. I think for teachers, we really need to have the amaze of beauty, the protection of the truthfulness and respect of nobility and determination of towards kindness, etc. I think last I want to say what Mr. Zhu Yongxin said, we need to have a happy and complete life of education, give it new education or ward off education. Every life form is constantly evolving. Thank you very much. That is all for me.
Can anyone see my screen? Yes.
那我来介绍我们，就是日新的这个自然而然的教育。我知道咱们这次会议的主题就是探讨孩子们如何幸福的生活，还要探讨他的学习的内驱力是如何培养起来的，就是如何保持孩子们的内驱力。
I would like to share with you how we should keep the intrinsic motivation of children. At my school, we understand that every child wants to learn. Everyone is born with such intrinsic motivation. It is education that went wrong, which compromised and changed the internal motivation of the students, and sometimes would even cause students to lose their interest and passion in learning. And now a lot of children are even showing tendencies towards depression. We were just having a discussion about that today. Recently, we, while recruiting middle school students, saw some children with depression, and the percentage is already as high as 30% in middle school and 40% in high school. These children sometimes are not even able to leave their houses. So how we should choose our approaches to education so that the children's intrinsic motivation can be maintained and children can survive and thrive. And that is the responsibility of every educator. At Ruxin, we believe in nature or natural education, which means we learn from the mother nature. I would like to first start with what we learn from the nature. 3 things. First, the nature exists without a purpose. The nature never shows seduction to the mankind or contempt to the mankind. No matter how we damages the nature never holds a grudge. It is always so giving. It gives its resources to all forms of life. The nature exists without a purpose. As Lao Tzu said in Tao Te Ching, to birth, yet not to own, to be, yet not fear. The nature gives birth to other forms of life without being possessive. That is very difficult for us to do. We give birth to our children. We always want to control them. We always feel they are our property and they must live according to our will. That is the education of man. And that kind of possession and desire to control are the biggest obstacles in child education. We need to learn from the nature, which does everything without asking for credits. That is the status and state of nature. And such a purpose-free nature humans can be free, because we're not owned and possessed by the nature, and that is how we can have our independence. If we want independence of our children, we need to realize that they are independent individuals instead of our affiliates or the vehicles that teachers can use to realize our own dreams, and they are not tools for the schools to have honors. So we need to learn from nature. In nature, we acquire independence. Humans love nature. We want to go to nature. Who loves us, accepts us, but does not try to control us. We feel independent in nature, and the nature loves us by giving us freedom and independence. The nature provides all the resources. We said it does not possess or own us. However, it provides everything we need to live. As an independent individual, we learned how to create our own lives. We grow in the soil. We grow silkworms, and we make silk and other fabrics, and we develop industries, and we make on and music instruments, and we make everything that is needed for organisms to live. And we can obtain everything we need from nature. So it is the most selfless. It sacrifices everything to us. In nature, the children explore and discover. In this process, damages occur. From damages, they find secrets and ways to construct, the ways to understand the world, and they understand how to build connections with everything in the world. They also learned ways to be self-reliant in the society. That is why with nature, we have everything education needs. Many times, what we do is excessive. We are actually damaging the natural capacity of the children. So we need to learn about the purpose-free and selflessness of nature. That's the first thing. Second, we need to understand that the nature is just and equal and at the highest order. In nature, there is no judgment or beauty versus ugliness. In Tao Te Ching, Lao Tzu said, if we understand the beauty of beauty per se and the kindness versus the unkindness, we could learn how to live. If we know the reason of beauty, the reason of evil, we would be able to tell right from wrong. But that is not necessarily a good thing. Why? That is because in nature, everything is unique. They differ from each other, but they complement each other. There is a reason for them to exist at the same time. There is far and the near. Without far, there could not be near. That is why they complement each other and coexist. Same with big and small. Without big, there cannot be small. But big is big, small is small. They are different. But which one is better than the other? That would be a value judgment which does not exist in nature. So from the perspective of nature, the fragrance of the flowers it is not different from the odor of the dog feces on the ground. People say that we like flowers, we like the smell of flowers, but not the smell of the dog feces. But these judgment comes from human, not from the nature. Giant pandas are cute, we say, but crocodiles look evil, hippos look stupid, but in the eyes of nature, they are also no different. The calmness of lamb and the ferocity of the wolves are no different. Rabbits are no different from leopards as life forms. That is why nature is the most equal and just. Only in that kind of equality can man be free. We are not free because there are too many value judgment. That is why we often say that we should not label children. We should not judge who's good, who's bad. Such kind of evaluation and labeling are not fair. They're obstacles to their growth and hurt their feelings and self-esteem. But the kind of evaluation from school to teachers and to parents are ubiquitous. They happen every day. So actually, our students live in immense pressure. How can they ever feel free? Only in an equal environment can men be free. That is the second thing we can learn from nature. And for nature, because it values equality, it does not discriminate. For men, it only provide, it does not guide, judge, or control. It's absolutely equal. There is no difference, such as there is no difference between different types of smells. And for diamond that we think are valuable, but diamond in the eyes of nature is no different to fallen leaves. The nature in its provision is not seductive, such as commercial products. They just exist. So humans are very independent and free in nature. When children play in nature, their imagination can be released without boundary. In the eyes of the eye, a fallen leaf could be a bed, a boat, an umbrella, and or just a pot, a piece of clothes. We can put fallen leaves together and have a piece of clothes. We could use it as ingredients to cook and to use it as flags that sway in the wind. And for children, leaves could be all sorts of tools. And with just one little stick, it could be the house beam, it could be a walking stick, it could be crane. Children use items from nature to play house, to build structures. In the eyes of nature, humans are creating. These are different from toys that adults buy for children. These toys are already made. There are ways we have to play the toys, for example, how to build blocks, and there are instructions. All the toys are designed, and there are certain patterns we need to follow for playing them. They have already been assembled into products, but for toys from nature, they need us to create. We can only be creative when playing in nature. We can our creativity be released and developed. And based on such understanding of nature, education needs to learn from the nature. That is why the nature is the Tao, is the way. In kindergarten, we have nature lessons. Our kindergarten is in orchid. We can have these classes, for example, for the nursery and the which is 2 to 3 year olds, and for 3 to 4 year olds, they're in the second level. We have different areas in the classroom. For example, on some are about physical education. They learn their bodies and emotional development, interactive skills, and discovery and exploration of science. So that is about scientific critical thinking and history. We have subjects as well. We try to incorporate Chinese culture. So we have a recitement of poems and proses that rhyme. And for example, the three character classics, and so the Chinese ancient literature is used to stimulate children's sensing of language. Was a Babel Tower class. Babel Tower was supposed to enable communication of all people, but we ask the children to listen to songs in different languages. For example, Japanese nursery rhymes, English children plays, and invite them to watch cartoons in different languages. And for nature lessons, we fully give children the opportunity to play, explore, and discover in nature. That is why we have inquiry on lesson and growing lessons that are built around 24 solar terms, and also on hiking. The school environment is not enough, so once every 2 weeks we bring the children outside for hiking in the forest, on the mountain, by the lake. Those are hiking experience. We also have practical life classes, which has safety on common sense, on workout, etc. We want the children to learn in beauty and love. Their wisdom can grow, and they can also enjoy freedom. When they enter on 5 years of age in kindergarten and ready for primary school, they have very similar classes, also a live art, a practical life, but they also have a thinking class, which is about imagination and enlightenment, which bridges them for primary school. For a language, they continue to learn English and also classic recitement, and also character stories for children to understand how each Chinese character is created, and picture books, also physical education, because the exercise is important for our culture. Again, is love, beauty, and freedom and wisdom. That is the motto of my school. And so here are some photos on from the hiking. These are not in our campus, but outside of campus. They got to get close to water, the mountain, and in the fall, they went to the forest to play with fallen leaves and enjoy nature fully. These photos are harvesting on. This is our campus. Around the year, we have a harvest because it's orchid on it's a orchard, and we have on a mulberry, apricots, apricots in spring, and we have jujube and hawthorn in autumn. You see children go onto the trees to harvest, to pick, and after they pick hawthorns, that they can make jams and the sugar candies. And we see they can also try to make syrups, and that's what they can do. We also have other activities, for example, sales activities, and also children are very proud
in selling their produce. Of course, the buyers are the parents. They are very cooperative, and children feel great after selling their produce. This is a growing lesson, and children really grow stuff in the yard and field. You see, they actually are tilling. It's not just a fake play for them to harvest stuff. But here on, we see children are actually harvesting their own work. Uh, the children actually learn growing all through the 4 seasons. In spring, they need to prepare the soil, and for the bigger ones in kindergarten, they actually work in the field for an entire day. They're so tired, they would lie down on the ground, and then they need to get the water and then wait till the vegetables are fully grown. They harvest them and make food out of it. And in the school, we also need to um I want them to bring the food back to their home for parents to taste. That also helps with the parent and the school communication. Because some vegetables need to be fenced, uh, and also need shelves and little tree branches to grow along, and the children would take care of that so that the vegetables can grow along the tree branches. These are actual labor of the students from spring all the way to autumn. In winter, not so much, because in China, northern China, we can't grow much in winter because of the cold. And in winter, we only sow the seeds of the winter wheat, but we only start the tilling and the carrying next spring. There are also animals raised by the kids, and the silkworms are the best for our students. They are just born. We have a lot of on mulberry trees. The students can record how these little worms grow to silkworms and how they become cocoons, and then butterflies, and we will just save all the seeds of the mulberry in the fridge until next spring, when they can sow the seeds again. And in this process, the students really can see how life turns from the very original form to the final products. And everything was participated by the students themselves. From now and then, we want the students to really understand the feeling of nature. This is one rainy day on when our original plan was disrupted. And so we spontaneously asked the kids to go outside. They were playing in the water pools. And they also went to the muddy pools in the field. You can see how muddy they got. After feeling the rainy day, the students wanted to write. We saw the poems that they wrote. One said, and this it's not one kid writing the poem. The students were just saying, "Oh, little rain, the drainy, little rainy, yum yum, and the little rain wet and damp." So these are all contributed by different students, and they experienced and they wanted to share what they felt. And in this process, the students actually created a lot of the poetic works. These are just some examples when basically all students know how to write poems. The bigger ones in kindergarten would move on to scientific observations. For example, what you're seeing here, there are two kids observing trees, perhaps looking at the worms on the tree. Because in the orchard, we have very ecological environment. We have plants and animals, so flora and fauna are very rich. And on the photo to the bottom right, the students are recording what they observe. If they are not able to write in words, they can just draw it out. That is the scientific
methodology we're trying to install at an early age. That is the nature classes that we have in kindergarten. Every day, the children are living in the orchard. Their daily life is full of play in nature. While playing, the children actually grow and cultivate plants and animals together. And we have exploration classes where the students are observing animals and plants and discover things. And the other day, there was one child who was collecting ants because we have a spot container for that. But one kid put a spider inside, and he put the spider in front of my eye and said, "Look, the spider has so many baby spiders around it." It was true. That spider wasn't big, but when I looked close enough, I realized that big spider had lots of tiny spiders on it. As someone who never studied chemistry at great depths, I really was surprised to see that as well. We saw that students are just taking initiative to observe and explore things. And I said, I don't know how to answer your question. Please go and talk to your science teacher. And for teachers who live in this environment also, we learned a lot. We realized that every leaf on is different. Every day when we walk in the fruit orchard, when the jujube trees are in blossom, we would just pick a jujube and eat it. And every jujube on that tree looks different. Our concept is every child is unique. All children are created equal. That is our concept, which is agreed and by everyone teaching in the school. When they face children, are they able to respect the differences of each individual and treat them equally? That is challenging for the teachers, but for the teachers that live in such an orchard environment, they also are inspired by nature because we actually uh, teach teachers the theories and they must agree with what we say. It's still very difficult for them to translate that into action. We need the teachers to have the epiphany, mostly from two resources. First, how the teachers were treated and whether, for example, the teachers are treated equally by the school administration and by each other. That is from perspective of social interactions. And the second source is nature. Our teachers on a daily basis live in the nature. They are learning with the children and experiencing together. When we see and there are no leaves that are identical, we are internalizing the concept that every individual is equal. And while interacting with the teachers and students, such concepts can be implemented on the ground by teachers and students. That's why the relationships between teachers and students in my school are very close and full of love. And that is the mindset of my kindergarten, which is the nature is the way. And here, the intrinsic motivation towards learning of the students are well maintained and even developed and thrived with just an amount of support from natural channels, the students can thrive already. Not everyone, though, because some of them still need observation and timely intervention and support from the teachers. That is why in My kindergarten students are immensely curious about the world and desire to explore. After they move on to primary school, they still have a strong motivation to learn. They also know so much. They've already accumulated so much common sense. Also, they're just very happy. In nature, they feel freedom and dependence. They can grow independently. They also can feel the love and care from each other, and the flow of love in the community, which is fully released and embraced in such an environment. That is all from me. Thank you.